Pleasure to meet all at last, and welcome back to Why Is That? So now for today's episode here on Why Is That 2.0, if you will, I figured that here on out, questions 31 through 65 are going to be pretty extravagant. But for now, I feel like that this one's kind of just like a direct follow-up to a question in which that talked about Tango and why I use that particular streaming platform instead of Twitch or Ustream, which are much better known. But this question in particular kind of goes out and branches out even further than ever. The question down here says, why is that you usually use social media platforms we've never heard of before? And now, simply put, I use social media platforms like Mastodon, WhatsApp, and some others here and there. I've actually tried my hand on a few of them here and there, but chances are I've kind of forgotten about most of them. And that's typically because of the fact that most of the time I'm just trying to do what I can to become as diverse as possible, but at the same time I'm also willing to go far beyond the inner reaches of my own comfort zone. And of course, there are a lot of things that basically encompass this idea, but in general, I typically use Mastodon and other social media platforms here and there because I do, in fact, like to get into some of the lesser known platforms out there. Whether they were made recently or they were made a long time ago, if they've gained popularity over the years or just a really small cult following, or likewise, I feel like that many people out there could probably get a little knack out of this, because I do in fact have an affinity for wanting to appreciate the lesser known things in life, the more obscured things in life to be exact. Like if you don't really recall a lot of things that I've talked about in one episode of Why Is That, in which I've labeled things out like defunct companies in the which, then that would probably be one thing that you probably never heard about before, but also defunct television programs. That'd be another thing that you'd probably want to get to know about even further. With some television shows like Acceleracers, Dukes of Hazzard, Futurama, Good Morning USA, King of the Hill, and hundreds of other different programs and the like. They were as captivating as they were back then, and they sure can bring up a huge cult following today, even though they might not be as recognizable as many things that we do know today super well. That's only because some of the most popular things out there, they do in fact happen to continue onwards even to this day. There's lots of media that we still have today, and if we don't, we do occasionally get new installments of these different franchises. And as for most other companies out there, like restaurant companies out there, I do typically try to find what I can, but I can tell you for a fact, some of these super big corporations out there like Pepsi, McDonald's, and many others out there in the industry, they are industry giants. And it is a wonder why they happen to make even more than we could ever afford. But nevertheless, when it comes to social media, every app out there that I've ever seen on the App Store, regardless of what software I'm typically using, if it's iOS-based software or Android or Microsoft or Google or like dozens of other different platforms that encompass different levels of software, and of course they're also search engines and providers of internet experience, and there are a lot of other things out there that attribute to them as well. But of course, regardless of what I'm actually using to find these apps, I can tell you right now, these apps, they do have everything they would typically utilize for these other apps. Sometimes they try to inhibit a new piece of technology into them. Sometimes they try to incorporate new methods so that way we can use them in ways we never heard of before. But of course, not everybody hasn't known about the social media platforms that I've used. Storyfire, WhatsApp, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Mastodon, Tango, and with many others that I've actually used. like Tumblr, Vine, the Vine camera, and many others here and there. I've tried out a lot of things over the last 15 years, but I can sure tell you, not everything was a great way of experiencing the internet. And that's pretty much what I got to say here for that question, but if you want to see more, go down to my channel. Make sure that you like, subscribe, comment, follow me on social media, and stay on the Hollywood side.